hearing Settlers Green. That is in fact not the case. The Settlers Green applicant had not filled out all of the appropriate paperwork prior to this meeting. And so we will not be hearing that application at this meeting. I would assume that it would be in December or January. There will be a public notice of that. I'm sorry about the fact that, you know, it wasn't clear, but this was somewhat of a last minute adjustment. So our roll call, Mike Gerhard is absent. Rick Mattson is sitting in for him. Jenny Flanagan, Jim Lefferts, Fred Massey, Ashley, Terry De La Paz, Ashley Medeiros, Terry De La Paz, and Tyler Dixon. So we have a quorum. And the first order of business is the approval of the minutes. Were there any concerns or questions about the minutes from any of the board members? One thing that is missing from the minutes, but this is, it was, and we discussed this at the meeting, were the conditions that were assigned to the approval of the master plan. That, and we had determined that they did not, those conditions would be part of the record, but not necessarily in the minutes. Those conditions included issues regarding drainage and preservation of a playground. You know, so there were a couple of things that don't appear in the minutes, but in fact were part of the deliberation. So it wasn't just a clear approval, it was an approval with conditions for the master plan. And I believe in the conversation that in the minutes relative to the Kickamuit, the Hugh Cole School. I'm sorry, I didn't write it down. I'll check in with, yeah, later. There was anything else that anyone has to say? Great. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as written with just a couple of corrections. And Terry seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. The applications today, it's as noted that we are not hearing Settlers Green, but this is it on the agenda at Settlers Green Major Subdivision Land Development. Owner Last Ever Realty, LLC, Play 20, Lot 16, 159 and 164. The project description, this is a residential development, including 12 single-family dwelling units, two garden apartment buildings with 54 units each, 1 and 2 bedroom. This is being presented or applied under the comprehensive permit. That is the law that the state put into effect, and it limits the process, the idea being that they're looking for affordable housing in the state. We have not reached the state's 10%, and as a consequence, we have to hear this particular application when it finally does come through under the comprehensive permit, which in the new format of the comprehensive permit, this application was denied initially in the first comprehensive permit. That denial by the planning board was overturned by the State Housing Appeals Board. The new method by which the comprehensive permit is handled is any denial that the planning board would potentially do, or the approval, either one, could be taken before the Superior Court. So the State Housing Appeals Board is out of the picture on this. And what we had denied initially was master plan. And with the new comprehensive permit, master plan isn't even part of the process. That's given as it's given to the developers. And then the next step is this preliminary plan. After preliminary plan is final plan. There are, within the preliminary plan, there are opportunities for negotiation in terms of what is being presented and conditions that can be placed upon that. Or it could be approved outright or denied outright. So those are the three outcomes that are potentially available here. But again, we're not hearing it today because they have not filled it out. Ben?
Mr. Chair, just to put on the record, town did receive a letter dated November 21st, 2024 by attorney Bill Landry, who represents the applicant. He has formally requested that this matter be continued to next month. This is going to require a motion to formally continue to next month.
I'll make that motion. Second, Ashley, all in favor? Aye. Okay, so that's it for Settlers Green at this point. When we do go through that process, there will be a public hearing. We will take comment from whoever comes to the meeting. And I would advise you to take a very close look at this once it is formally accepted by the town. It will be on the town website, I assume. So you will have a chance to look at the plan in its entirety. And I know that's cumbersome, but that's my advice in terms of being able to address it as effectively as we possibly can. And we'll certainly be doing that. So is there any public comment for items not on the agenda? Hearing none. We don't have a director's report because we don't have a director. We did agree to inform the town council that we wanted a plan to connect the new Broken Bridge, which is the extension from Long Lane to the Kickamuit River. The bridge has been built across the Kickamuit River. And we are recommending, we agreed to recommend to the town council that there needs to be a plan to connect the western end of the bridge to the East Bay Bike Path. This was the whole concept behind this Safe to Schools grant, which we got to pay for the bridge. And at this point, there's nothing been done formally on that. So this is a very important element. I wrote a letter to the town council on behalf of the town of the planning board. Because they had a long meeting, they decided to put it off, and they also felt that it would be better to discuss that with the new town councilors. So they will be, our request will be going before them. And essentially, I asked for the planning board to play the lead role in that, but with the participation of the Department of Public Works and any other, and of course the town council in terms of moving this forward. But the bridge as it stands needs to have a connection. So that's a key element. And I also heard from Brian Wheeler, who is the Department of Public Works Director here in Warren, about the Kickamuit Middle School and the Hugh Cole School parking lot reconfiguration, and he will be attending the preliminary plan. But in my discussions with him, I felt that we had addressed a number of the issues. He did bring up the maintenance of any drainage that would take place and who would be responsible for paying for that. So that is something that we will, as a matter of course, handle in the preliminary plan hearing when that the school board comes in front of us. I mean, one thing to clarify, the school board is a separate entity from the town. So any work that is done by them is paid for by them. And Brian's concern is, where does their responsibility end and the town's begin? And in particular, drain cleaning and ensuring that those, so it was discussed in the conditions. They have been asked to do that. And I think that anything further will be discussed at the preliminary plan. So that's that issue. Anything else?
Comprehensive plan.
Comprehensive plan moved forward by 3 votes to 2. The sticking point for 2 of the town councilors was the term voluntary being removed from the language. Our recommendation that the word voluntary be removed from the language in the voluntary historic district. And twice we dealt with this. The first time we weren't able to get that approval because the president of the town council was unavailable for that meeting. The argument is that by taking out voluntary, it makes it mandatory. And I pointed out the fact that mandatory does not appear anywhere in our comprehensive plan for the historic district, that we were essentially reflecting the reality of the current situation that has gone on, interestingly enough, for 10 years. And somehow this became a choke point for some of the folks there. In fact, one of the town councilors claimed to have 100% agreement from our past town planner and from our consultant that that word should be removed. And I said, I had talked to them both after he had talked to them, and they said, well, we talked about how you could handle that. And I said, well, you know, the planning board decided after long in great consideration not to do that. And the planner and the town and the consultant were simply acting on behalf, you know, here's a possibility, but that was not 100% a recommendation. The other argument was that if it's in the comprehensive plan, it has to happen. And my argument was, we are putting forward strong recommendations, but those are based on the reality of the moment. And they're also based on the town council making a decision whether or not they want to do this or not. So we were not forcing them. The town council president said, no, this is the Bible for the town, the comprehensive plan. And my argument is, you know, I don't see how that could possibly be. For example, the Ocean State job lot as the next place to build affordable housing would depend on funding, you know, a developer who is willing to come in. So it's certainly not a Bible, because if it were, it would force the town to buy that. So the arguments were.
And frankly, we wouldn't be sitting here half the time if it were the Bible, because we could
demand whatever we want.
And unfortunately,
again,
sometimes
there's something going on under the surface relative to this dissatisfaction with the existing historic district. And it raised its head at the meeting, but fortunately it passed. So the comprehensive plan at this point now goes to the state. The state reviews it. If there's any questions that they have or further revisions, we might have to revisit it. I'm cautiously optimistic, because this is going to the state and God knows what happens when it goes to the state, but I'm cautiously optimistic that because they have seen every element that was within the comprehensive plan prior to us putting them all together, that we would be in a place where the acceptance of that would most likely occur. And if it didn't, I can't imagine that it would be anything but relatively small revisions that could be done fairly quickly. So,
Hey, Frank,
yeah,
am I correct in understanding that since the town has approved it, that we're operating under the comprehensive plan that was submitted?
It's gotta get approval by the state.
yeah.
But
From what I
didn't
read,
they say that-
once the town approved it, we operate under it. And if the state comes back with anything different, then we can amend.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes. This was adopted by the council.
Right.
The question is final approval, whether or not we have final approval on the plan. from the state. So I will have to get, if you're asking for a legal answer on that, certainly we'll have it by next meeting to tell you like.
Okay.
Would that plan affect Settlers Green?
I will get back to you.
That's-
on- I don't believe so.
They say we're still guided under the
Yeah,
state
correct.
regulations.
And the
and
comprehensive
it can't-
permit, which
Yeah,
trumps the
Yeah, but this
comprehensive
is a
plan.
new
Yeah.
one.
it doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
no,
The
I-
state
I-
still,
Plan.
When
the state still
application-
trumps.
When the application was submitted, you gotta go with the one in place.
We didn't have any in place.
Yes, you
Yeah,
did.
we did.
Old one.
Yeah,
But even so, the state guidelines still trump the comprehensive plan. So as much as we could go back and we've tried before, we have to listen to the state guidelines of what they have said.
it doesn't hamstring us. It simply is the fact that it is a stronger argument than an ordinary development would have. Because it's not held to the same level of stringent requirements that all developments are because of this quirk in the comprehensive plan that notes, the comprehensive permit, which is different from the comprehensive plan, that notes that if you have at least a quarter of the units that you have in there as affordable, then it is accepted under the comprehensive permit. Now, the question of affordability is one that we've seen time and time again here, where what is considered affordable and what they use for that basis is has been in some cases hard to swallow. I mean, quite frankly, ridiculous. You know, when $400,000 becomes affordable housing, I don't know what planet we're living on. But again, for those of you who are concerned about this, I strongly urge you to contact June Speakman, who was just reelected, Walter Felag, who was just reelected, Jason Knight. These are the folks who are in a position to address the state mandate that we're operating under. So, and I mean, I've certainly been no shrinking violet in terms of noting my opposition to this. This is, to me, a terribly flawed concept. So anyway, there we go. Anything else? If not, I'll ask
The dates,
the what?
the dates for the next year.
Oh,
Yes,
right,
yes.
sorry, yeah. Yeah, there were any questions about the dates that were noted for our 2025 meeting?
I did notice that there was no meeting date set for next month.
That's
And-
because this is for next year?
I know, but even on the dates that went forward from 2024, there was no date set for next month. So I'm wondering if there is a date set, if it's the 23rd, a couple days before Christmas,
I
or
think
the
it's
week before.
16th.
Are the Settlers Green people going to have enough time to promulgate their next step in just 3 weeks? What's going on?
Yeah, I would say that what we're looking at, it
I
would,
have it as December the 16th. Yes.
December the
I
16th.
think we, at one meeting earlier, we had already dealt with that issue, moved it.
And how soon do we need to hear from Settlers Green
Right,
that
'cause
they'll be able to go forward with their
2
plan?
weeks before.
It just depends on when they respond with that information. As of right now, you have to certainly, that's what you did.
Well, we have to put out the notice for the public hearing, don't
We
we?
sent it out on December 16th, so all the notice that you already gave the public just continues.
So the anticipation is that the Settlers Green Corporation will be ready to go forth then.
Or they would ask for a
Continuous.
continuance.
Or they- okay.
Yeah, they
And then
could
they'll go
ask.
forward to January.
Right.
Yeah, correct.
Is there a time window that they're working under now to get from the approval from the court or SHAB?
SHAPS no longer exists, right? So it's just a decision. I don't want to get into the whole legal synopsis of what happened, where it's at.
No, I'm just wondering whether they've got a year from the state decision, the court decision, or
That's a
2
legal
years?
opinion, and I don't want to
Okay.
publicly state it in terms of what the decision had in terms of any vested rights that they got, basically. I'd rather just not talk about the issue on a public meeting and just continue their application for next month.
Yeah, on a less hot, the continuance, there is a clock that runs once it is heard. So the continuance
Doesn't start that clock
doesn't start that clock,
If they request a continuance,
which they did.
which in writing, which will required by law, and then it just continues.
So if they don't want to go forward, then the public will still think there's going to be a public hearing?
It's not advertised as a public hearing for tonight.
No, for the one in December 16th.
It depends on what happens in terms of.
Last week it
information
was
we get.
advertised as a public meeting.
If the data comes in that requires a public hearing, then it'll be notified as a public hearing.
Oh, I thought it was already out as a notice
It's not noticed in today's meeting as a public hearing.
for the 16th.
For today.
No,
the-
I'm talking about for the 16th.
Depending on what we get from senators.
Okay, so
In other words, if they come tomorrow with all the information and ready to go on, completed information that the council required from them, and then certainly can set a public hearing for.
okay, so the public needs how much time for notice then for the December 16th meeting?
2 weeks, right?
14 days.
Okay, so it'll be next week. They have to know next week. Okay, there you go.
We're not saying we can't get the application next month. Certainly can get the application and
Yeah.
continue with other.
I just don't want the public to waste their time again.
Certainly,
If it
but
goes
I'm
out
not-
next week that there's gonna be a
the
meeting.
application continues to, December 16th. Every anticipation should be that the
Do we have
application will be
anything
before this
else on
meeting
the
here
calendar?
with an explanation as to the application. Until we get more information and then we can't really comment as to what the future holds in this application.
Do we have anything else on the calendar for next month?
We may, I don't know what, Kickamuit Middle School,
They say the schools.
they're coming forward.
Correct.
Okay, yeah, so that would be because they had the master plan with conditions, so.
Yeah, they've got 120 days to do that, right?
Well, they've had since the last meeting, yeah. And so, anyway, there we go. Anything else? All right, motion to adjourn. I'll make that motion.
How about a
Second,
motion for the meeting for next month?
it's already set, it's the 16th.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Ah. Thank you.
Meeting.
Nice.